And I'm super excited to be here in Greensboro, the borough.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
We got some UNCG folks in the house.
Spartan Pride?
yes.
I think we got some Aggies in here too.
Aggie Pride.
We'll say, can I do that, Elon, or do I get to say love? No, all right. I won't do that. No, but I'm super excited to be here. This is a very important topic, and you know, we created GrabThe Key at Moving Mortgage around 3 years ago, and our main goal with creating GrabThe Key was to ensure that we provided educational empowerment, awareness, right, to generational wealth through homeownership, right? It is a very, very important thing. If you look at homeownership rates today, and you look at the wealth today, it's a direct correlation, right? It's a direct correlation. And understanding that correlation, we knew we had to do something and we had to step in. And you know, when you look at it and you look at homeownership rates both in the Black and Hispanic community, you say, wow, it is massive to really try to move the needle, right? A lot of times you freeze because you say it is so big. It's such a big, big thing to do. But we know that it's just like eating an elephant. You just have to do it one bite at a time, one step at a time, and one conversation at a time, right? One loan at a time, right? One home at a time, one family at a time. And so we wanted to step into it, and this is where it was created. And we knew that the awareness and the educational empowerment was important, but we had to continue to build on it, and we have continued to build on it. We traveled across the country to do just that, and so we are here in Greensboro today, and I am super excited about the conversations we're going to have, and hopefully these conversations inspire individuals that are here, and inspire individuals that may not be here, and may be unseen, and families and individuals that some of the people in the room are going to help, and potential people in the room that can be helped as well, right? So, y'all ready to do this?
Yeah.
All right. Let's have our first guest up here today, our first group. You guys can come on up with me here. Have a seat. Thank you. All right. Yes. All right. Thank you guys for coming. So I'm gonna pass it over to you guys. We can go just directly in a line there, if you don't mind. Just tell everybody who you are, a little bit of what you do, right?
All right, hi everyone. I am Lynette Jones. I am a 7-year realtor with Keller Williams One here in Greensboro. I'm also a vice chair with the Realtors Community Service Committee with the Greensboro Regional Realtors Association. And I'm happy to be here. And I also love to help folks buy homes. I support helping all folks, but I do also have a special place in my heart for helping Black and brown communities become home owners and bridge that wealth gap.
Good afternoon. I'm Daryl Daniels. I am the chief fundraising consultant and storyteller for Dollars and Stories LLC. So I work with small nonprofits on telling their stories in order to gain sustaining donors. But my passion here is just homeownership for Black people, brown people coming from a place of having less, not having a home at times, and now being a homeowner, being able to provide that for my son as some equity for him going forward. This is a very important movement for me, and I'm happy to be here to support it.
I'm Michaela Haber, Greensboro native, former realtor, and work for Landis. Landis is backed by Jay-Z and Will Smith. And our mission is to create a pathway for anyone wanting to purchase a home, especially in the minority community. So,
my name is Melvina Smith, and I am a 20-year-old veteran of real estate, licensed in California and here. I founded the Dominion Realty, which I just opened up last year, but even more so, I opened up a foundation that's nonprofit for Get the Keys. And this is a nonprofit that focuses on turning renters into homeowners. Our goal is to get them into their property or into their home, turn that key to that door before they have to renew their lease. So we do that with credit counseling, consulting, helping them to budget their funds and just kind of get them in transition for that. We're really excited about that.
Yeah. Grab the keys and give the keys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect marriage.
Yes.
Perfect marriage. I love
Yes.
it. I love it. We can't go without, we got a Will Smith reference here, so that's always fun. But no, so jumping straight into a lot of what you do. I'm back. I'm on the business side, also the education side. But where I like to start these conversations is generation, right? And as we think about generational wealth, generational homeownership, I'd love to hear each and every one of your generational experiences, right? If you don't mind, tell me, everybody, probably a little bit around the generational experience that you had with homeownership.
Oh my goodness, so where do I start? I remember when we were, my kids were small. I just got married out of high school, and it was a crazy time. But me and my first husband, he's no longer with us, but we moved 19 times in the 20 years we were married. And if you do the math, we purchased the last 8 years of those 19 years. And so we understand what the struggle with not being able to be accepted with regards to your credit, not having the monies that you need for a down payment. How do we get in position for something like that? I mean, how could that have been prevented? How could we have, just jumped right into home ownership? Well, we didn't have anyone to hold our hand through that. And our children were small and everything. And so that was the aha moment in 2019 when I said, you know what? Where are our renters at? How can we help them? How can we get them on track to let them know that this is not the end all be all? There is a way. There is an opportunity for you just waiting. And we're here, get the keys to help you, to hold your hand, to coach you, to let you know you can open the key to your own door. You don't have to be up and doing what they're supposed to do. But I think that's my experience, and I see the struggle. I experience the struggle, and my mission is to make sure that every renter I come in contact with, unless it's their choice, is to show them the way and hold their hand.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I do have a different perspective in that I'm a fourth generation homeowner, and I purchased my home a year after graduating from college. And because I saw the path, I actually have a picture of my great-grandfather standing in front of his home when he purchased it. They moved from Florence, South Carolina, and they purchased their home here in Greensboro. My family's been here ever since. And so I understood the value of home ownership. I didn't see it. They bought it before I was born. But my parents built their house in an all-white community. They were the first ones to buy a lot and build it from scratch. And the difficulties and the challenges that they faced with the builders and the contractors that didn't want to work with people of color that were purchasing in their community. And then the neighbors did it, and they were people of color as well. And so I learned the value and the importance of home ownership, watching my parents be able to go to the bank and use the equity in their home to purchase a new HVAC system, or being able to use the equity in their home to put my sister through college because she didn't want to work, y'all. I worked. So I was able to see how home ownership gave them leverage. And so when I graduated from college, they wanted me to stay at home and save money. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not a slacker. I'm gonna get my apartment. But then I felt crazy because I was like, I'm just giving this money away. And so I went and bought a house. They tried to talk me out of it. Like, you're too young, just move back home. But I really wanted to build out equity. And I'm still in that home. We're not gonna say how many years I've been in that home, but I've been there enough time now where I have some equity, and now I can start to leverage that equity for my home and my family. And so the perspective that I have is that I understand the value of what homeownership can do for you long term as a consumer. And I love that I'm able to educate people and promote that for them to be able to use it. Because a lot of times people see a mortgage is just a bill, and they don't necessarily see that there's value in using that leverage from that equity, or even the ability to just sell it do it too. Even as a minority, I was a single woman when I purchased it. I didn't have a lot of the same issues that a lot of folks have had because I use my finances. So I want to make sure that I share that with others through my Spark.
Your home and the equity built up in your home for the power of being able to redo your kitchen, the power to put your kids through college, like all of those different things that you can do from a leverage perspective, equity perspective is so powerful.
So my experience was challenging because there was an interruption in homeownership in my family. So my mother's side, my grandfather and grandmother had or still have 13 acres of land out in 252, which doesn't have as much value as it once had because farming has changed and things like that. But it's where a ton of we will all have at least 1 acre. My mom has 12 siblings, so actually literally 1 acre per child is what they purchased, and that was, there's still family members who live out there. My dad's side in Durham, they own their homes. But for my parents, they just didn't have or take advantage of that opportunity. So we rented my father's entire life. My father passed when I graduated from college, but he passed homeless because when the person wanted to sell their home, they had to go ahead and get out. And my parents rented a little bit longer, but their credit wasn't great, so they ended up in a hotel and jumping from hotel to hotel. I said that was not going to be my reality as an adult. That was not going to be the reality that my son experienced. And so before I even had a child, I have a 1-year-old now. My wife and I have been married for 7 years next month. And we purchased our home 4 years ago. And every day, I step outside and I look out at my backyard and I'm thankful because it's about half an acre of land behind the house. And I'm just grateful for the fact that this is starting, or this is re-engaging that generational home ownership for my family, for my legacy. And on the other hand, my wife, her family, financially literate, they knew how to leverage that money, how to make sure that they got equity from it. Her college was paid for in that same way for her undergraduate degree because her parents made sure that they leveraged that. So me gleaning from my father-in-law how he was able to use a home, I'm thinking, oh, I'm in Durham proper, I'm in the city. Durham is growing right now. Our home, since we bought it, has gone up about $150,000 just because now the market's fluctuating right now, but we've seen the increase. And that is very promising because while markets go up and down, if you stick with it, you know they're always gonna go back up. And so I'm very happy. And I've got a nice house that's fairly new in a predominantly black and brown neighborhood for my son to be raised in, where he can feel safe, he can go out and play. We don't have to worry about neighbors looking at him sideways because we look out for each other in our community. Like, this is what I wanted. We chose a neighborhood that looks like what we wanted to raise our family in and still be able to make the money that we want on the back end. So it's generationally there was an interruption, but it's we're reconnecting it right now. Beautiful story. Mike.
Homeownership is power. And I wasn't taught that either. So I grew up in Winston mostly, to a mom who rented the whole time. She still rents. And I was a first generation college student and was not taught homeownership, credit. I opened a Victoria's Secret credit card and, $1,000 later, I was like, oh, geez. And so I don't think if I had met my husband right out of college, homeownership was very critical to how he grew up. And so, he bought a house right out of college and I was like, who does that? I never thought about that. I didn't think that was possible for me, right? But the message is it is, right? And we took that house and, that was a house in Kernersville that wasn't our dream home, but it was a house, right? And I raised 2 children there, and then we kept that house, and then we moved to Greensboro. And then we kept that house, and then we moved to another one. So we have 5 houses just by not selling it from the first time, right? Which is crazy to really think about, but we rent it out from the first to the second to the third, you know what I mean? And that gives our family huge power and generational wealth, right? Something to pass to my children, something to later sell if we need to, open up a business, just really be able to leverage that, money if you need to.
The consistent word that I continue to hear over here is leverage, right? And my generational experience was very similar to a few of you, where I never seen homeownership. I never had opportunity to see homeownership. We rented, we went from house to house, and that was normal. And to be fully transparent, whenever I see homeownership, it was for, in my mind as a kid, as a young Black kid, is that homeownership was for the rich, wealthy, white people. That was what I see. That was my experience. And I was lucky that my wife, the same thing, that her generational experience was everybody owned homes. And one of the reasons we were able to buy our first home was because of money that was passed down from real estate on her side of the family, right? And also the fact that after we've seen about 5 or 6 homes, that I kept talking myself out of it, or ourselves out of it, she had enough and said, no, we're getting this, I'm not gonna say what she said, house, right? And we got that house. And that house changed our lives. It changed our lives, and we've owned several houses since then, and investment properties, and been able to leverage that. And I wish we had kept our first house because it's right near Candid Stadium, but it was that experience changed our lives. So hopefully that message rings true with everybody that's listening out there today. Leverage. All right, so I'm coming back to you, Mike. You work for Landis.
Yes.
That is an amazing organization that helps a lot of minorities get into homes, or the path to homes. As we think about for-profit organizations that may not just be real estate or whatever it is, or mortgage, how can we partner together, right, and work together to help improve homeownership rates in minority communities?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that's the backbone of why Landis was created. It was, how can we create a path to homeownership for lots of people who are renters right now, possibly, who don't think that they can own. We work with credit scores starting at 550. And so when people hear that, it's like, oh wait, I do have, an option. And it truly is. That's what we say is our mission statement, is to guide people on their unique path to homeownership, because everybody's path is different. Everybody's history is different, and credit score is different. And is it credit? Is it capital? Do you have tax money coming? Let's create a path for you to truly own your home so that we can start to leverage it, right? So that you have the ability to do that. And so, yeah, I think it's a beautiful company. I love what I do. I've worked there for about a year, and it's amazing. We've helped hundreds and hundreds of families purchase homes. We graduate a super high amount, graduate meaning the client buys it back. But we create a path to homeownership for just so many people that would not have thought it possible. So it's amazing.
Lynette, what are your thoughts on that, right? How can organizations partner together to increase homeownership?
I love that question, because when I think about the history of the triad here, there's a company called Home Mills, and some of you may not have ever heard of it, but there are a lot of us that are a little seasoned, the rest of them. We remember having family members that worked at Home Mills. Home Mills created housing for their employees, whole communities with churches and parks and everything, that they could walk to work. And I was thinking about, what if corporations, now they rented, but eventually the company could sell the house to the person that worked for them that lived in that house. And I was thinking, what if corporations brought something similar, brought something like that back? Now, there are large companies like Amazon, Facebook, and they actually will offer housing incentives to their employees if they buy within a certain radius of the business, of the headquarters. But what if these companies decided, we're going to actually offer housing incentives for you all to work for us? This is something that we're gonna, not only would it add value to the employee, but it would also help with employee retention. I mean, if your company helped you buy a house, would you, I think I'm gonna stay here a little longer. They gave me $8,000 in closing costs, I might hang around, right? The culture might shift in that company, because now I don't look at you as just a job. You invested in me as a human being, as a person. So I feel like that's something that more corporations and companies could do, especially here, because what we see is a lot of kids come here to come to college and then they out. I'm not staying in Greensboro, I'm going to this next place. But what if the companies here started offering housing incentives? But even if they're not able to do housing incentives, just employee education, right? Bring us in. Hi, corporation, Lynette Jones with Keller Williams One here. I'd love to come and do a seminar to help educate your employees about what homeownership looks like. Maria, David, they're coming, and we're gonna educate you about homeownership opportunities and what it's like to get financing. Let's fix that credit. Let's get you where you need to be. We know you're employed. You've got W-2s. Here are the next steps. They can even start with just housing education. That's how a corporation can help bridge that gap. Here in Greensboro and Guilford County,
or there's a tax credit for staying here. All these companies, especially in Raleigh-Durham area, they're coming in. They're bringing people down from other places, across the country. Why not invest in these people right here? I think we need to pitch that idea. Like, let's
Look at this, coming together, grab it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, you let me know if you smell that. I
No,
know,
no.
I got you.
Hey, I'm gonna hold you to it.
I'm right here, I'm right here. What are your thoughts?
I think there's a lot of myths in the mindsets of our renters, even in our minority communities. Myths that I can't afford a home. I don't have the money my credit's just not right. It's like, you know what? This is just where I've been. And I think we need to create an awareness through these kind of events that we're doing, workshops, partner closely with down payment assistance programs with the city of Greensboro, the city of High Point, NC Housing. The state gives up to $15,000 towards your down payment and closing costs. So I think partnering with these institutions or agencies will help to clarify, will help to bring down the fear of moving forward. And I think it will give some hope in those communities to let them know that, you know what, this is not it. It doesn't have to be it. We're here for you. And they just don't know that we're here for them, to help them to get to the next step. Renters that are renting, most of them are not by choice. It's because it's just where I am. Some of them you have transitional living and it's convenient because maybe I'm a traveling nurse or I'm just in school for a time, but they don't know what they don't know. And I think we need to create that awareness and continue to spread the word through our employers. Even so, we can partner with a lot of the businesses here that will partner with us to get that word out so that they'll know.
Real quickly, I just thought of something else. Why don't we start younger, right? So let's have these nonprofits start in high school, because I didn't know about, when I was a kid, how my credit needed to go. I didn't know about buying a home. You said the same thing, right? We if you don't know, then you continue to it's a cycle, right? It's very much cyclical. And what if we start younger? What if we said, schools don't teach financial literacy? That's a problem in and of itself. But guess what? What if an after-school program once a month we came and we talked about a different topic? What if people in this room came and told these kids, I know that this isn't your reality right now, but it can be your future? I mean, that's transformational. That they don't teach financial literacy now. My grandma said that home economics class, right? And you learn about how to balance check with this, that, and the other. That's not taught anymore, very intentionally, because the people who need it, how are you gonna learn? How do you get out of this situation? But what if we take it on ourselves, partner with nonprofits, and say, this is a possibility for you. You can't buy a house right now. Yes, you're 13. But what if you know it's a possibility? You say, hey mom, I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm 21. I think I wanna do this. And you have that conversation. You start having those conversations with your family. What does that look like for the next generation? We can't change everything right now, but we can change what our children and our grandchildren experience.
Next generation.
Yes.
Yeah, please keep going.
And just to kind of piggyback on things, we go. I can tell we go. But what if even before high school, in elementary school, like 5th grade, just the basics of money, right? Saving. When we talk about saving, investing, and they grasp these concepts very quickly. My son's elementary school started this before the pandemic hit, and he was starting to understand the concepts of saving and investing and spending. And it was just like, well, I think I'm supposed to put this much aside for this, and I think I'm supposed to put this, and then it's supposed to grow. So now he comes to me, Mama, how much money I got in my checking account? Well, I was thinking I wanted to buy some gum. Well, I can get you the gum, but it's gonna have some interest. Why aren't you gonna charge me interest? Yes, because you're gonna borrow the money from me until you get your money. And he's like, oh man, no, I'm good, I don't need the gum. So even if we start young, it can be impacting just the basic financial principles. High school is amazing, but what if we put those foundations down in elementary school about those real basic principles of finance? It makes a difference.
Kind of like when you're 3 and you get handed $1 from your mama at church, they put it in the plate.
Yep, and you don't want to put that.
Exactly. Yeah. But and that's fine, right? Give your money to the church as need your philanthropic endeavors. But what if we learned it that way at 3?
Yeah.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's good. So, when we have GrabThe Key Junior, which we are rolling out next week, 6th and 7th graders, whenever we come to Greensboro,
Let's go.
all right, y'all in?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold you to it. All right. No, that's beautiful, and it's I couldn't agree more on that. I think it is very powerful, and it's an opportunity to change the next generation's opportunity around financial empowerment. Why do we not have that today? Right? And why do we not have that right now today? And I ask myself that same question over and over again, and actually partnering with David, we're looking in the high schools as well as the colleges. We're starting our first one in Fayetteville State. So if y'all got Aggies in here, I mean, we're trying to get in there as well, right? And we want to continue to pour back into the next generation. I'm sure some of you all don't know, and folks out there listening today, we have our moving schools as well. And as our schools grow, that is going to be, it is a pillar of our schools. We have a goal to have 100 Charter 1 schools in the next 10 years. And it is a pillar of what we're trying to accomplish. So I couldn't agree more on that. Y'all speak my love language. All right, let's talk about trauma. Right? As we think about homeownership in minority communities, you can't have a conversation about it if you don't talk about the trauma that has been experienced of being told no, being told it's not for you, you can't do it, right? And a lot of that trauma over decades has still come up in the generations today, right? We talked about our generational experiences earlier. Let's unpack that aspect. How do we change the narrative around, you mentioned a bit earlier with this, how do we change the narrative around, it's not for me, I can't on my own. How do we change that? We'll start over.
I think the way to change that is the trauma comes from the trust. We've been taken from so many generations. So now we're in this mindset of I have to keep, I have to protect, I have to secure what I have. And so with the new requirements now that they're more regulated, why do you need my bank statements, or why do you need to know what my marital status is to get me pre-approved? Or I've saved this money and I've put my mattress money here in a safe because I'm afraid. And I think we need to create that narrative where we can go in and they have some counseling, they have consulting. Our lenders are sensitive to the buyers that come to them. And I think if you understand where they are, we can better serve them. When you go to a restaurant and someone takes your order, the food is great, but how you serve me will determine if I'm going to come back. So I think when we communicate properly through the institutions that they're introduced to, we remove the myths by telling them there is money out there. You don't have to have this credit score. It's okay. I think it brings down that trust barrier, because the opposite of trust is fear. It's fear, and we have to lower that. We have to let them know, it's okay, exhale with me. I'm gonna be there for you. I'm gonna hold your hand through this, and I understand where you are. Be sensitive to where they are. Understand the person you're dealing with, and then serve them where they are. And don't assume that they know, or react to, their responses, because it's a sensitive place to be.
Yeah. I think our community is definitely very fearful of the financial, right? There's a lot of fear of, I'm going to be turned down, so I might as well not even go through the process. Michael, can you add on to a little bit of that? Like, I love this, obviously, from the perspective of what Landis does. I'm sure there's a lot of like, well, my credit scores aren't here, or I don't have the limit. Like, should I even do this? Should I even go through the process, right?
Yeah, it's something I've thought about certainly a lot more since I've joined Landis. Because part of me was like, initially, like, just fill out the application, just start, I'm like, it's free, it's not damaging, just do it. But there really is, it's sharing that personal, confidential financial information. There are huge barriers to trust. I think a lot of it, and you really hit on it, is taking the time, right? Taking the time to understand where someone is in their life. And as a realtor, as with Landis, with anything, just truly coaching, but like listening, right? And taking the time to listen, I think is the biggest thing, really. And like, we can't just turn a light switch. It's something that will happen over time, with different rules and regulations, of course, that have, helped where we're at least today, and hopefully, continuing to grow in the future. But that's tricky. It's a really tricky subject.
Yeah,
I'll give an anecdote that my pastor gave one time about fear. If y'all have ever been to a circus or seen one on television, see how well trained the elephants are. What they do is they tie the elephants to a stake with a chain on their leg. And the elephant realizes they cannot move outside of where that chain is. When you get to the circus, after the elephant is well trained, you take the chain off, but the elephant still realizes that the elephant can only move around that pillar. I think that is a challenge for our communities. It's that we have been conditioned sometimes in such a way that even when the chain isn't there, this is how far I can move. So he talked to me about that directly, about entrepreneurship, right? So my father had some challenges in business, some very great victories, but some big challenges that hurt our family. And so that's what he said, you have to break that chain that's not there anymore. So let's do that also with the way we operate with homeownership, right? Let's break that chain that's not there, that is fictitious in our mind because of trauma.
Wow, that's a strong analogy. One person put it to me once, is that to have generational wealth, you have to great generational curses. Right? That's smart.
I spend a great deal of time before I even set an appointment with a potential client talking about mindset and where your mindset is. What are you thinking about homeownership? Do you feel like you deserve this? And I find that a lot of people don't feel like they have the right to be a homeowner. And that the mindset piece is the biggest part of it all. Because if you don't feel like that you have the right to be a homeowner, you're not gonna overcome that fear of applying. So then it's like, well, no, I don't really feel like I can own a home, Lynette. And I'm like, well, why don't you feel it? Well, my mama never owned that. And so some of those traumas from the past do kick in. And so now don't judge me now, I assign them homework. I need you to do these words of affirmation. I want you to look in the mirror and say, I can be a homeowner. I am a homeowner. I deserve to be a homeowner. And do I know what they always do? No, but I'm checking in. Have you been doing your affirmation? All right, you ready to talk to your lender now? And what I see is that there is a shift because now I've looked in the mirror and I told myself that I deserve this. I can have this. All right, so let me call. But another part of it is as an agent, I'm mindful of who I partner my clients with from a personality standpoint. But culturally, there's another aspect for Black and brown people. You can't just talk to us in a kind of way. You can't be condescending, and you can't talk down to us. You can't make us feel like we're begging you for something. We've got a lot of pride in Black and brown communities. So the minute you talk to me like, you're doing me a favor, all right, well, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I'll be in touch, and then you'll never hear from me again. So I do have my lender partners that I work with, and I'm mindful to partner with my clients because I do an analysis while I'm talking to them. Is this person very chatty? Are they friendly? Do they want to, talk about what y'all did this weekend, or do they just want to get straight to the numbers? Okay. And then if I know it's a straight to the numbers person, I'm going to partner them with the lender that's a straight to the numbers person. Because if I put the person that wants to talk about the dog and the weekend they had with the numbers person, well, he's just so rude. He doesn't ask me how my day was. He just gets so, I don't really care for him, right? And then if I know I got my churchy folks, and they want to say, well, the Lord is going to find a way. Well, the lender is going to want to make sure that that's verifiable. But I'm going to put you with a faith-based lender who can also pray and touch and agree with you. Because that's also an aspect. So culturally, I think about that when I partner my clients with a lender. And then personality-wise. And that helps break down that barrier of that fear and that trauma, because now you got somebody you can relate to, that you feel like is a partner and not someone that's just doing a job.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the next level service. I love that. That's awesome. All right, let's talk about education. How can we, how can lenders, how can agents, how can organizations, how can we do a better job of educating and providing educational empowerment to minority communities? So it's all
Well, what I do appreciate about the down payment assistance program is that you have to go to a home buyer seminar and get your certification in order for those extra funds to be incorporated in your loan, be it through whatever local lender that you're going through. And I think those classes are really wonderful because it puts them in the home buyer seat in the forefront. I'm not there yet, but I'm learning. And so I think that's one great way. I think creating, again, workshops like we're doing now, portals from lender portals, real estate portals on our site, but a hometown, first-time buyer, this is what you should expect. This is what you need to know going in. So I think when we pave the way and educate them at arm's length, where they can just put it on their mobile, where they can put it in their, it's in the system for their website or something like that. I think we need to make it more tangible instead of over there or over here, where we can just say, hey, I'm gonna send you a link. This is what I want you to know. Before I start this process with you and showing you homes and going on tour, I wanna put you in the mindset of where you're going to be. And I think that's very helpful by educating them from the perspective of, right here, there's no excuse, removing the excuses.
right.
contribute to the fund?
I really think that a lot of people are thinking about the immediate needs that they have, and the education of what can happen in 3 to 5 years is sometimes hard to see. So if there are grant opportunities, opportunities to offer a stipend, or to be able to say, hey, if you go through this process, you will get $2,000 toward your closing costs. If we can find the money and the resources that we need, I'm in fundraising, right? So if you can find the donor who actually has an affinity for these kind of programs and say, hey, you want to make a big gift, make a $100,000 gift toward the Greensboro community, the Black community in Greensboro, to be able to say, you get $2,000 towards your closing costs if you complete these classes. Guess what? Now you open my eyes, because I might not have had the $2,000 is childcare. The $2,000 are diapers and things like that. But now I know if I complete this educational coursework, I'm going to have a step ahead toward closing on this home. We got education is great, but sometimes education is not someone's immediate priority if they don't see a guaranteed return on investment with it. But if you compare something like that with somebody, then you say, oh, you know what, this is worth my time. Because I got to go to work today, and after work, do I want to go home and sleep, or do I want to invest in my future because I know that that investment is actually going to pay off? Sometimes it's about giving people the resources along with the education. So I know that's a tall order, but I think that in this room we got the mind.
Show me the money. Yeah, show me the money. All right, but as we kind of close up here, always love to finish on this question of those sessions around thinking about the people that we want to help, right, our minority voters. And if you could say anything to them today that could encourage them, inspire them to take the first steps to homeownership, get over that trauma or that fear, what would you say to them?
Believe you can do it. I just want you to start with your mindset. It's a very small step, but it's the most important. I want you to believe that you can be a homeowner, and then you can call us and we can talk. But if you don't believe it, then you'll never achieve it. So first, start by believing that you can become a homeowner, that we can find you the funds, that we can get your credit in place. All of that will take place. We got you. We'll take care of you. We just need you to first shift your mindset, because that's where I find my biggest block. It seems simple. I'm sorry I don't have something fantastic to say, but that's it. I want you to shift your mindset first.
I love to keep it simple. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it might not, we encourage everyone to apply, and it might be a no. It's not a no, it's a not right now, and how can we work together, right, to make it attainable? And I love your mindset, because that is so true. Being confident in your abilities, trusting yourself, and moving forward and knowing I can do this. It can happen for me and I deserve it. I love that.
I would say to you, renter person, dream and see yourself in that house. See yourself in that kitchen making that homemade food for the holidays. See that yard and the kids playing. See the entertainment going on in your home. See your land and your space and not sharing a wall or a ceiling or a floor. Live in that moment right now. When my husband and I got in the car this morning, we had to get here, and with all of the things happening outside with the festival, we had to put it in our navigational system to see how we get to this place. And if you notice when you put the directions in, that little pin starts at the destination and works its way back to you. So start at the destination, dream, see yourself in that house, and then incorporate the steps needed to contact your realtor, to contact your lender, to put things in perspective, to get you in position. So I would say dream, enjoy it, be there, and then remember that you can do it and incorporate the steps necessary to get there.
That's beautiful. When I was a kid, I'd be bored in class, I would draw my dream house. And I was just drawing, I mean, it was huge. I mean, big garage, all this stuff, right? I don't have that house right now because paying the rent, or not the rent, excuse me, the light bill in there would be crazy. But I think that everyone said something that comes down to 2 words. Therapy is needed in our community, right? We pray, that's great. Go see a professional therapist because that'll change your mindset. And counseling, it's credit counseling, that's financial counseling, that's marital counseling, that's whatever you need. But therapy and counseling can set you up with the mindset and the tools necessary to get there. I'm a black man, I go to therapy. I actually had an appointment on Wednesday. Like, go see somebody, talk to somebody to change your mindset because we can't do it by ourselves. Like, there are people who are trained to get us in a better state of mind so that we can go out and do what we're called to do. But if you're afraid to even talk to somebody about how you're really going through something, if you're afraid to talk to somebody about how you're afraid, how are you gonna get ahead? Are you gonna stay in the same place? So therapy and counseling are what our communities need in order to get ahead. That's it.
Everybody watching on TV or on social right now, they didn't realize they were coming for a therapy session. It is the mindset, right? Being able to start off and believing that it is possible, that it is possible. I'm gonna say it's, I want everybody in here to say possible, and I'm being for real. It's
possible.
It's
Possible.
It's possible. It's possible. Thank you guys, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, let's have my realtors come up. I'll slide down here a little bit. So yeah, grab this thing. You're gonna get cozy. You're gonna get nice and cozy. Nice and cozy. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Good. All right?
Yeah, maybe give me a microphone.
I
feel like I'm in church.
So I want you all to introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about what you do. Go ahead and go first.
Hey, it's Aisha Richardson. I am a real estate agent with Keller Williams One. I am a North Carolina licensed instructor, so I teach pre-licensing, post-licensing, and continuing education for real estate agents. And I'm also a coach for, I lead a team of real estate agents in the Greensboro market, and we have locations across North and South Carolina.
I'm Ramon Melly. I'm a real estate agent, 11 years in the business. I've got a real estate team out of Winston-Salem, the Smart Move Group, and so 11 years in the business.
Love it.
Holly, I'm the oldest on this platform, but the youngest in real estate. So I'm Tamika Tyler. I am with EXP Realty. I just recently started a team with EXP. I've been in the industry now for about 6 years, transitioned into real estate from education. And so I'm a former teacher in Guilford County.
I love it. Love it. That's what we're gonna come right back to you. We're gonna boomerang it right back to you. First question. What made you want to get into real estate?
Wow. So, honestly, I can remember being in education, and I love teaching kids. I love the learning and the realization of the learning process, right? One of my former students is here right now, and actually one of my daughter's college roommate. So I'm doing something right. She came back to keep learning. So as an educator, one of the things that was important to me, especially as home 3rd grade, right? There is that teaching year where it's all about the test. And I can remember thinking to myself, life is about so much more than an EOG. If these kids leave this classroom and the only thing that they have accomplished is feeling good about passing a test, have I really truly equipped them for life? And so while education was huge for me, I saw myself really focusing on the whole person, and the whole person encompassed what are you going to do when you leave high school, you know? And so that really just kind of transitioned into real estate, and I found myself asking God for 3 things, right? I said, Lord, I want to work in a career that I could still help people. I wanted to work in an industry where it would give me the flexibility to be home with my children and to be a mom and a wife. And I really wanted to take the ceiling off of my income limits. You know, I didn't want anybody to tell me how much money I could make. And so just my desire to continue to help people, to see growth, to invest into the whole person. Real estate was just really a natural transition for me. I wish I could say I spent hours and hours looking at homes, but I wasn't, you know.
Jump right in?
I jumped right in. Yeah.
I love it. Come on.
Well, I used to watch a lot of HGTV, and it looked real simple, and it looked like a lot of these do. So, and honestly, the first thing that kind of attracted me was the no cap and making a lot of money. And then when I jumped into it, I realized I was really helping people and showing people some really amazing things that they didn't know, or realizing goals that they didn't know they could reach. And I just fell in love with it. So, not as deep as answer, but no, I just, initially HGTV, and then I fell in love with it.
So I got fired from a job. Like, I was in the call center, I hated it. I was like looking for a way out. And so it actually was the best thing that could have happened to me was for the city guard to be like, girl, bye, you play it this much, so it's okay. At the time, it's funny because it's true. So I got fired, and then I ended up going to the hospital because my liver shut down. I had autoimmune disease and I got sick. That's how I found out. So a guy called me, Don Cooper, with it used to be Prudential, and he said, "Hey, you were looking for a job, and you tested with the top 1% of our employees. Have you ever thought about real estate?" And I was like, "No, no." But then I remembered that when I was a kid, I grew up in Fayetteville. What's up? Don't say Faye now. And I used to watch stop it, David. I used to watch this channel, Channel 8, and it would just be housing listings that would just scroll. And I just remember like, Mom would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, that's gonna be my house. Oh wait, that's gonna be my house." And so when he called, I was just like, "Oh, well, I guess I have always thought about it." But I didn't realize I was thinking about it. And so when he asked me, I was like, "Well, let's see what happens." I went and I was like, "Hey, babe, will you pick me to go to real estate school?" And he was like, "All right, but you better sell something." I was like, "Okay." And I took the class. I went to GTCC because way back in 09, well 08, it was really expensive to go to private real estate school, like $500. Well, it was expensive to me. And so I was like, well, let me see. So I went to GTCC. Well, the last month of class, my granddaddy got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so I was like, well, screw this. I don't care if I'm going home with my granddaddy. And I missed the final exam by one stinking question. So I was like, well, forget it. This is not for me. Like, I'll just go do something else. And then so Kelly was like, Kelly's my husband. He was like, "Nah, girl, go take it again." I was like, all right. So I went back to GCCC. The night before my final exam, my dad died of a massive heart attack. So I was like, oh, this is definitely not for me. Like, this chick needs to go on a punch a clock somewhere. But I went in there. She wouldn't let me take the test early. I passed it. I got the highest score in the class, 8. And so then it's just been nonstop. And then I started teaching real estate classes because I realized that people don't realize what you can do. And my family, like when he was saying that there was a disruption in home ownership, we had that as well. And so like my parents lost a house. And so I was like, wait a minute, I never even thought about buying a house, but my husband's family, everybody owned houses on their side. So it was just like a disconnect. And I was just like, well, we can just keep renting. Like I moved 11 times before we bought, so. Yeah, he didn't like that, but give me free rent for him when I'm gone.
I love it. So you talked a little bit about some of your challenges, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from each and every one of you around challenges of being minority agents, right? What is that, some of the challenges that you faced? You can start with them.
So initially, I think when I got started, I was really young, and being the only Hispanic or minority person on the entire team was really challenging because I didn't see anyone else really even in the industry at the time. 2011, I heard there was a couple of Hispanic agents in Greensboro. There might have been a couple in High Point, but in Winston, I was like the only one, and it just felt like, like there wasn't really that many out there. So it was hard to start, but once I got started and I really started working within the community, it worked out well. So initially tough, but I think as I got more experience and I started reaching out a little more and doing different things to get business, it got a little bit better.
So interestingly enough, I started out and I had a really good first couple of years. I think my first year real estate, I sold about 17 homes. But I found myself around year 3 going, I really enjoyed helping first-time homeowners, and they're still my favorite group. But I felt like I wanted that transition. Like, there are, homeowners who are buying homes and then they're moving up. So what does that look like? But if I'm honest, I really didn't see an avenue for that move-up buyer why is it that as a minority agent, I can be trusted with the first time home buyer, but going up to the $500,000 price point or the $800,000, and guess what? There are minority homeowners in that price point, right? So what is it that as soon as you cross a threshold of a price point, my services don't compare to others? So that led me to maybe partnering with a different brand. Because we know that you go into certain communities and you see different signs there, right? But that wasn't it. That wasn't it either. It just came down to, and as a culture of people, we're used to having to prove ourselves.
Yep.
And still, have been a successful agent with the numbers to get into certain communities and certain price points. I have to prove themselves.
You have anything else additional? I know you went through, you talked through a few different things from a struggle perspective, but any additional pieces that you got?
I absolutely agree with Tamika. Like it's interesting, and then sometimes when I walk into my firm, and like I joined, Keller was the only firm that I've been with, and I've been with that office since I hung my license in April 2010. And when I started, there were like 54 agents total, and of the 54, there were only 5 minorities. 5. And of the 5 minorities, I was the only one who was a full-time working agent. Everybody else had full-time jobs, or I think Ronald, he was in the military, so he just had his license there so that when he came to town. And so it was different because I was looked at like, we were the first Black people in my neighborhood, so I'm used to being the only one in the room, but it's just really different when I'm walking in and they're like, oh. It's just a challenge, and then having to prove myself to the community, like, okay, well, you have been doing it long enough, so I don't know if I can trust you. I'm gonna go talk to her. Or, oh, okay, well, that's really nice you did. Oh, well, you doing it now, so let me go. Be like, wait a minute, it's like hard to straddle that line of getting where you I want to get it where I fit in, but I fit in for all of y'all. Like, I helped you over here. Why can't I help you on this one? So
yeah, definitely several different unique challenges, right? Even culturally, from the Black communities and the Hispanic communities. So we all definitely have very serious challenges. And as we think about it for that next generation, so not a lot of, on the same way on the lending side, there's not a lot of Black loan officers, not a lot of Hispanic loan officers. The same thing is on the agent side, right? We got to continue to, you said you teach classes and whatnot, but I think we need to continue to inspire the next generation as well. That there are challenges, but we need more, right? We need more of this, right? So, thank you. So as we think about homeownership in the triad, right? We think about homeownership here. We think about homeownership issues and rates, like the current homeownership rates. I think we talked about that in our past session. What are still some of the barriers that you all see? You guys are actually, yeah.
It's mindset. Like, I really think it all goes back to mindset. Like, it's a colorism. The first domino is you gotta believe it here first. And like, you gotta think it before you can see it. Like, even in church, like, you gotta see it before you can see it. And so many people have that, the past trauma, like we talked about in the last session, of like, well, it didn't work out before. Or when my mama had this problem, or, they had a foreclosure, or this person, I didn't take care of my credit because I didn't know that it really affected me when I got that credit card, when I walked on campus, because they had a picture of UNCG, yeah, that was me. I didn't realize it was gonna be a problem later, and wanting that instant gratification, which has become more of a problem, even for me, like, we're a microwave society, and it's getting more and more quick that we wanna see stuff, yet it's slow and steady wins the race. And so we're very, and I think social media has hurt it, even though we're streaming on social media, people want to live the Instagram real life. They want to live the TikTok life, and like, oh, I'm jet setting in Paris. Well, you just took that picture in the backyard, but it looks like I'm successful. It looks like I'm doing all the things, and people want what they see online. They want to have the nice stuff, and they're not willing to, like, okay, well, that's nice that you got those shoes. It's nice you got those shoes and everything, but how's that gonna serve you? Like, that's a liability, that's not an asset. So
yes, that's good.
And I think it's an education and representation thing too. I think that the more that we see Hispanic and Black homeowners, the more that inspires our friends and our families to continue to want to go down that path. And so the education side of it too, it's a lot of people, like especially with the Hispanic community, mortgages don't work the same in, like, for example, Mexico as they do here. It's more of a collateral-based product. So if you don't have anything, you really can't get anything. And so people move here, they don't know that, and they just wonder how people own homes. But once one of the family members ends up getting a home and they see it's usually the second generation or the third generation that become the first homeowners, they kind of lead the way. And so I think that through representation and through education, I think we can get there and hopefully catch up.
Yeah, so I definitely think it is it's an educational perspective, especially from mindset and finances. But I think about it like this: if there's 37% of homeownership in the triad, growth is not only outward and inward, it should be both directions, right? So I walk away with a lot of my first-time home buyers and I tell them, listen, if I've done a really good job for you, after we get to closing, your circle is gonna say, how did you do that? How did you buy this home? If you can give them half of the information or a tenth of the information that I gave you to get them started, then I've done my job and I've done my job well. And I just closed with a young lady. She's a single mom, really dear to my heart, but she's a single mom and she reached out to me, I guess about 3 years ago, and she said, Miss Tamika, I'm gonna buy me a house. I said, yes you are, you're gonna do it. And so every now and again she'd come in, she said, well, I've done this and I've done that, what else do I need to? Well, now you need to do this piece and now you need to do that piece. So we closed earlier this month. I've probably talked to 10 people from her circle. These are people who are first generation homeowners. So now not only will she be able to reach in to educate her daughter to say, we own homes, her growth or her reach has gone outward. So if that 37% is having conversations with people within their own family, within their sphere, we can grow that number. So, a lot of times the platforms for educating, it doesn't have to be a space like this. It can just be a conversation. So what was your homeowner, your home purchase experience like? How did you get here? We have to keep those conversations happening inward and outward.
I think it's powerful. Stories are powerful.
Yeah.
And being able for us, you talked about the negative of social media, the powerful piece of social is we gotta keep telling stories. We gotta keep showing individuals that who are having their first opportunity, first generational homeowners, right? And that it is possible. And I gotta give a shout out. I meant to do this in the first session, but single females are driving the market from a homeownership perspective. They're doing a fantastic job. So ladies, single ladies, all the single ladies, like somebody else. No, that's big shout out there for sure. So I want to pivot back to when we talked a little bit about some of the issues and some of the struggles as minority agents that you guys have faced, right? As we think about and talk about whenever you have individuals that are seeking out agents, right? Why do you feel sometimes as minority agents you're not sought out?
I actually think the majority of the time it actually works out the opposite. I feel like, especially when I first started, the first few years, I was almost exclusively working with people that looked like me and spoke Spanish, and maybe because there was a lack of other agents around. But now that's not so much the case. I work with everybody now, but especially in the beginning, it was definitely the case where I feel like they gravitated towards me, and I love that. That worked out really well, and I think I did a good job for them. I did have one experience I wanted to share though, and to this day I think about it, and it really irks me. But I had one guy, maybe 34 years in, and I already knew what I was doing. I was in a role, I was doing my thing, and he was writing some offers, and they were not great offers. I mean, back then you could negotiate, but he was trying to negotiate a lot of money, and it just wasn't working out. And he one day told me that he didn't want to work with me anymore because I was Hispanic. Well, he's Hispanic because he doesn't think that other agents are going to take me seriously, and that's why he's not getting his offers accepted.
Wow.
And I was like, that is insane. To this day, I think about it. But so that's the only experience where I feel like maybe he didn't want to work with another person of the same race. But other than that, I think that the vast majority of the time, people gravitate towards people they look like, and trust is naturally built there.
I have not had any direct experiences, where people chose not to work with me that I knew of because of the color of my skin. I would say that one of the benefits of working with someone who may look like you or have similar background and experiences is they have similar background and experiences. One of the things that I encountered during the pandemic was this mindset that realtors had about programs such as down payment assistance. I could almost look at a listing and see who had it listed to tell my client if we should even spend any time going to see the property, because I knew the stereotype that they had towards FHA programs and the stereotypes that they had towards down payment assistance. So, you know, it's vitally important to have more representation of brown and black agents in the industry because we understand each other's story. I understand that my single mom is not a bad person because she didn't have 3.5%. She needed down payment assistance. She just did. And so being able to connect with an agent who I felt like could understand her perspective. And, you know, it's just, it's important. Representation across all spectrums is important. I think it's even more important in real estate where the stakes are so high.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't know if there's much I can add to that because I've seen both of that, like I've seen it all. And I've heard people say, oh, well, I'm gonna use them because they're gonna, somebody, you know, a white agent's gonna be taken more serious than you, and I feel like I can get a better deal going that way. And it was more when I was in my early years of real estate than it is now. And I don't know, I mean, part of it is, one, I'm like, well, on to the next one, and I don't think about what all that is. I know that then I had less confidence than I do now, and what I'm doing is, you know, I'm providing a service for you, and the knowledge that I've gained over these years, and because of where I serve through the realtor community, on the local, state, and national associations, like I've got a broad spectrum of information that I can give you, and that's also part of why I started teaching and why I encourage like other agents who look like me in the office, like, hey, let's go join this committee, let's go do this and do that, because that gives you another tool in your toolbox that somebody else might not doing. Because I still, I mean, maybe it's just the way my grandparents felt, but I still feel like we have to do more, be more in order to compete on the same level. And so we gotta be in more spaces than they do just to even get a seat at the table sometimes, so.
My small experience around that was the fact that like my name, and this is also internal experience for me, like my name is Montel. When you hear the name Montel, you think of a black person, right? And I had to get over my own internal mindset around it. We talked about that, right? My own internal mindset around the fact that, okay, because I was in inside, so I started off in inside sales. And so when I'm talking to somebody and I say, Montel, my first job I switched to say, oh, this is William, right? Just simply because I'm like, okay, if I say William, I know my sales will go up. And then it just occurred to me and it hit me internally of, you know what? My name is Montel. That's what my family, my parents call me. That's what I go by. If you don't want to do business with me because of that, you know what? Like, I'm gonna keep it moving.
So, my very first business card, y'all, I had on a suit jacket and my hair was straight. And one of the things that I was concerned about was, oh my gosh, my name is Aisha and I have a natural, like, people are not gonna work with me because I need to assimilate in my looks in order. And like my first picture, y'all, like I'm looking like this. Because I was so uncomfortable. I was just like, this is not me. They're never gonna see me with my hair straight. I'm not gonna show up in a 3-piece suit like that. But I keep that card because it's a reminder, like, forget about what they're gonna think, because there are certain people that are gonna work with me. There are certain people that I'm here to serve. And that's one thing, like, usually when agents look like they walk in the office, that's one, if I'm in the front, oh, hey, come on, after you talk to the team, then come on, let's have another conversation, because it's gonna be different for you. Because there's a different path that we have to walk in this building. And I have those conversations, right, wrong, or indifferent. I need you to, let's set the correct expectations for agents as well as for our customers and clients.
No, it's good. It's a real thing. I think it's something that a conversation needs to be had, right? So, this is my send-off. This is my send-off question. Right? Yes. So as we think about it, the folks out here today, the folks watching on live, homeownership, right? We talked about the mindset. What is one thing that you would tell them to do to take the first steps to grab the keys to homeownership? And I'm going to let you.
Have a conversation. A conversation doesn't cost you anything. And you know, when I talk to people all the time, that's what I tell them. Listen, your first step is having a conversation, and have a conversation with somebody that can guide you into the process gently, at least get you started, make you feel comfortable enough, trusting enough to have the conversation to move forward to homeownership. So where you start, have the conversation.
And I would say, yeah, kind of the same thing. Just start somewhere. Start researching online if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone yet. Start calling someone on the phone, setting up an appointment, whether it's a Zoom or an in-person in the office. You know, whatever you got to do to get yourself, you know, over that hurdle, that mental block. With credit scores, you know, a lot of times people, we talked about this in the previous segment, a lot of times people say, hey, my credit's in the high fives, I know I need a 640, 620, but a lot of lenders can kind of help guide you, or there's programs out there to push you over the edge and show you how far it's going to take or how long it's going to take or what you need to do. So it's better to have help than to do it yourself. So if you're, you know, on the fence or you're wondering about it, or maybe you don't think interest rates are good right now, at least start. Find out what you can do right now. If that works for you, let's keep going. If not, we can wait. Whatever you need to fix, we can fix down the road. And it's not really a matter of if you can, it's when you can. It's the biggest thing for me. So yeah, that's what I was saying. Just start.
Not if, but when.
Yeah, have the conversation. When a real estate agent calls you, we are not trying to get anything from you. We are here to provide a service. We are here to help you. I'm looking at both the cameras. We are here to help you. So when we call you and we're like, hey, let's sit down. You were searching on our site looking at houses. So I can see there's a house need. Whether you think it's today or next year, you're thinking about it. So let's go ahead and talk now so that when it's time for you to pull the trigger, you will have everything set up in place so that you can move forward confidently and then we can go in the house.
We are not the car warranty people.
We are definitely not.
Drop it.
You're helping the dream of homeownership.
Yeah.
I thank each and every one of you. I appreciate the hard work you're doing in communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, come on up, squad.
Money say love you too.
Turn that one off. All right. How y'all doing today? How y'all doing? Hold on. I'm gonna get a little tighter here. So they're on the camera there. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Sure thing. I'll go first. Ladies first, right? Maria Cervantes, Movement Mortgage. I am out of the Triad High Point office. Have been with Movement Mortgage 7 years now. Beautiful, wonderful years. And I have about, outside of the 7, 12 other lending years behind me in the banking industry. So I love it.
Love it.
David Richardson. I am in Burlington, Devon area, outlets, Greensboro.
Joe Phoenix.
But it was Spartan, so Spartan. Lending wise, I've been in lending for 10 years. I came into the banking side. Grew up in banking really. Been with Movement for 1 year. Made a decision to leave. Was looking for more, a place where I could have a bigger impact, and shop around, talk around, and do what became my home.
Here we are. Grabbing the keys, baby. Grabbing the keys. So talk to me for both of you all, because we got to hear a little bit about some of our realtor friends of how they got to the industry. I'd love to hear you guys' stories on, you know, what made you want to take that step and say, you know what, I want to get into financial services. I want to get into lending. What was some of the thought process around that? First one.
Sure. So being Hispanic, I'll start there. Growing up, I am the youngest girl in the family, have 2 older sisters, and I have a little brother. But it seemed like growing up, everywhere we would go, you know, my parents, their English, you know, was not perfect. So growing up, I was the one who my older siblings would be like, no, you go. So if dad needed something, go buy this. You're going to be the one negotiating it, okay? So my dad would be like, hey, hon, can you tell him? I mean, I would be the haggler. So growing up, it was like, okay, this is real life. When I graduated, I knew that I wanted to be in the lending industry, in the finance industry. I love that, for me, numbers have always been, I've enjoyed them. And just, being in the banking industry for, my foundation, my starting base, it was, being able to serve my community and being in the banking industry at the time was like, okay, gosh, I can really help. And I just do this, but I can also help them do that and acquire this and start here and grow from this and go to this. And of course, transitioning over to the mortgage industry, Movement Mortgage, was wonderful because I feel like now there's no limitations. Being in the banking industry when I was at the time, I did have some boundaries, and I think with many lending institutions, they do, because, but where I am today with Movement Mortgage, I feel like those doors just have opened up, and I feel like, okay, I'm home. I can serve my community, so many different, generations and groups. And I love it, just being able to do and help is what drives me.
Love it. Let's see, I got into banking by accident, I think. I was working in a sporting goods store. I was a manager. I got burned out in retail hours. Retail, all that it becomes, you don't have any time for family because the week of Christmas, you gotta work 60 hours because it's the Christmas sales, and you gotta work a day out because all the returns, all that stuff. So my brother was working as a teller for BB&T, and he said, you ought to try to get into the bank somehow. So I looked into it and I said, well, they paying bankers. I tell them it's the same thing they pay me to run this store and work all these crazy hours. So I'm gonna go over here and see what this is like. And basically got into banking, did 2 years coming up on the retail side from a teller to a personal banker, private banker type role, and moved to the Triad for an opportunity. And found a niche for referring people to the mortgage industry and good referrals. And then a gentleman, Pat Hicklin, called me up and said, hey, I think we want to bring you on and talk to you about joining our team. It's like a team. Does that exist in banking? And it honestly turned out being one of the best lessons I've had in my career because I joined a team that didn't look like me. So that allowed me to work with people who didn't look like me and learn how they talk and what they care about in the process, and kind of navigate some of the more complex deals. And then also got to work and do my passion of working with first-time home buyers, helping people look like me. So I was kind of playing both sides of the fence at the thing. And as you know, if you read the news, BB&T went through a merger, and here I am. I didn't survive the merger. The merger did not show me what I wanted to see, so I looked forward to it.
Well, I didn't realize that you have similar backgrounds. I started off at Stagecoach. I'm not going to say the name, but I started off at Stagecoach Bank. Gosh, my experience starting off, I was a loan officer to start off, and I was giving in subprime time, subprime loans. First job out of college, and I was giving 10% mortgages. And at the time, we would package anything you have the opportunity. Car loan, credit card, put more credit card debt on the credit card loan. Like anything you can do package, right? I was very competitive, and so I was told if you take this job, you'll make X amount of money, and you will be able to be stack ranked and see where you're at. I wanted to be number one, right? And I remember my last day, like it was yesterday, I did a 28% car loan at 160% loan to value. 160% loan to value, and I think we all in this room know that cars depreciate as soon as you purchase them, right? And so the only benefit was $1,500 cash out. That was the benefit. And I went to my sales manager and said, you don't expect me to sell this? He said, I do. I sold it.
person took it. I went back and sat in my seat, and I stared in space for a little bit, and I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. And the majority of people that would come into the branch crying, having their homes taken away from them, having their cars repossessed. Many times people would just drop the cars out in the branch, parking lot. They look like my son, right? They were Black or Hispanic. And that has pushed me to be where I am today, to lead what I lead today. It made me extremely passionate around trying to help minorities generate wealth through homeownership, right? So, very similar backgrounds to you guys. So, guys, as we think about some of your challenges, right, that you've had as minority loan officers, can you unpack that a little bit? So, tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you may have faced. You can take that.
For me, one of my challenges, I think a lot of people look at me and say, what the heck is it? They don't know.
And I'm not gonna lie, I thought that at first.
Keep it real.
A lot of Black people look at me and they see, hey, that's my cousin. He can come to the cookout. I've had Hispanics look at me and say, it's not speaking Spanish. No, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. I've got an Egyptian, I've got Indian, both Native American, and so that's been a challenge because in a world where we created what talk about people kind of work with their own.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you work when you don't know where your own, and people can't identify what your own is? So that's been one challenge. Another challenge has been getting into the industry. You learn how to analyze tax returns and how to do all the things that we do on a day-in-day out basis. And I've done very complex deals, but I still, to this day, if I get called from someone who may not look like me, or who may look like me, they may not trust that me being younger, because for lending purposes, I'm on the younger end of the spectrum. I'm 37. Average age of loan officers, probably 54.
55, and it's 55 white males.
Yeah.
That's what the industry was like.
And so in that concept, they think, oh, he don't know what he's talking about. He can't do this. The tax return calculation has to be wrong. There's going to be a problem with it. We trust them. So that's been a big challenge, is that trust factor on both sides from an experience and knowing the industry.
Well, for me, I think female, minority, right? And of course, being a younger generation, I think that has been probably the biggest challenge overall, but I don't let that slow me down. For me, it's like, okay, challenge accept, right?
There you go.
Don't let this be what speaks. Look at my numbers. I will leave the back. So no, I mean, but I do, I think, and it's nothing, it's just like one of those things that it's just because you have so many different generations and opinions and whatnot, but it's okay, I guess it's totally okay. I think that if we know what we're doing, that's gonna speak for itself, right? I don't think that they'll see the Hispanic or the color of our skin, right? I think it's going to be okay. She's closing mortgages. They're doing well, and she just helped this family. She's helping that family. She's helping this family. I'm going to talk to her so she can help me. So I think that can get into a point where it can be, I guess, restrictive, but don't let that hold you back.
That's right. That's right. Back to mindset.
Yes.
Don't let it hold you back, right?
That's right.
And a small shout out to the females at Movement Mortgage. 60% of our President's Club, our top loan officers. So the rates of minority loan officers, we talked a little about the realtors, are not in a place where we'd like them to be, right? How do we encourage more minorities across the country to get into the opportunity or understand the opportunity? Not only the opportunity economically,
right? The opportunity to make great money, but also the opportunity to change lives. How do we help more minorities get into the industry of mortgage?
I think, it's just letting them know, if you're looking to help the community, to be, whether you're Hispanic, Asian, Black, whichever. If you're just looking to do something to give back, whether you want to be a realtor, a loan officer, in the lending, I think it all boils down to wanting to give back, because that's truly what we do. When we're in this industry, both my realtor partners and on the lending side, we're giving back. We're helping people reach their goals, make the dream of homeownership happen. So by all means, I think it's just for anybody out there that has interest, that would like to be a loan officer, you don't have to go through the banking industry like we did. You can come straight, just there is some pieces of education, obviously, that everybody has to be prepared for, but it definitely can happen. Well, it's possible.
Yeah, I think for me, I think we need to do a better job educating what the lending industry looks like. All the roles that exist. You see the person who goes and they're on me and Maria, we're talking about, we help people finance your house. It's a lot of help that we have. We have really awesome teammates behind us who help fulfill that role. So there are roles that you can learn this industry and not have to be 100% commission. And then you learn the industry itself so that you can then step out and become a commission employee if you want to. And I don't think we do a good job of getting that to the college campuses, or to even the high school level. Back to the education piece that we talked about earlier. You had some conversations about this. Getting the high school to understand that there are trades out here, there are industries you can get into where you don't have to go and rack up $80,000 worth of student debt, $100 worth of student debt, and still be a successful, contributing member in society. We need to do a better job of that.
Let's talk about some of the misconceptions, right? And that's the thing about being a corporate myths earlier. So let's unpack some of those misconceptions. What's the biggest one that you all hear whenever you have your customers and clients, potential home buyers? To me, what comes to mind is, go ahead, Dave, you were about to say, go ahead, Dave.
Let me go first.
All right.
Because I'm newer, like I said, I came from the bank. So I had to unlearn a lot of rules and regulations that were bank overlays. And by that I mean, what I'm saying is, there's a rule and a guideline that exists in mortgage. And then you have what we call overlays. So that banking institution has laid in what they feel comfortable with in order to give you money because of your credit score or your characteristics. And it's not really needed, it's not required. I had to unlearn a lot of that. So one of mine, coming from the bank, was loans that exist below 600. Just didn't happen. You couldn't do anything below 600. The very first
saying
loan,
600 credit score.
The very first loan I closed a movement mortgage, the person had a 585. And they were going through a ugly breakup, etc. I won't get into details, but I was able to help them in that situation move on and transition their life without going back into an apartment. And if I was in the bank, it would have been, no, can't do that. We won't do that here.
and therefore, why I jumped. Yes, to piggyback on what he was saying, absolutely. I think, just some of the limitations that clients think, okay, well, my bank tells me I don't qualify, and that's it. They think that a bank is the only place they can get a loan. There's actually other institutions out there that can help them buy their house. So, and then not only that too, I think another challenge that I think when I'm speaking to clients, whether, first-time home buyers or the move-up buyers that, before they purchase their first house, they always say, well, one, credit score being a challenge, thinking that they had to be a certain credit in order to qualify. But two, having to have 20% down to purchase. No, You don't have to have 20% down to purchase, you know? For first-time home buyers, even if you don't have that little bit of percent down, there's programs out there that will support that purchase to allow you to buy a house, you know? Yes, you might need a little bit of money up front for the deposits that required to get the house off the market, due diligence, earnest money. But other than that, you know, you do have to have a little bit of skin in the game, therefore the due diligence and the earnest money. But you can prepare for something like that. It doesn't take you as long, it will take you years. Everything else, closing costs, down payment can be supported. And then one more thing that I would like to add too, you know, this is more so from the Hispanic community. We have what's called work permits. Okay, work permits, and also the ITIN, which is not a valid social security number. So I get calls from clients that, hey, I don't have a valid social security number. Can I buy it? Yes, you can. There's institutions out there that will support an individual that does not have a valid social security number and allow them to buy. Movement Mortgage actually just recently started working with a program. We know we're partnered up with a broker outlet that allows for ITIN clients to be able to buy their first house. You know, exactly. So very proud to say that, you know, it's those challenges. They can be put to sleep. We can
David,
override.
do you get some of those same ones? Yeah.
I got one more I want to add.
Oh, no, keep going.
You do not have to be on your job for 2 years as your current job. That's another one I get all the time. The 2-year rule has truth in it, and just like most things in mainstream media, there's a little bit of truth in everything that is said. But what doesn't get explained is that 2-year rule would be for me, or my wife. She works for Guilford County School. If she quit her W-2 job and became a sales commission loan officer, we need 2 years of history to see your performance of you, because now everything is on what you're doing and the work that you're putting in. Not just because you changed from Guilford County to Alamance County. I had someone call me and say, well, I've only been teaching now in this county for 4 months, and my cousin at the salon, you know, that's what barbershop talk.
That's where all the business takes place.
No offense, Greg, I see you in the crowd. But barbershop talk and salon talk is great. It does move the needles on issues, but a lot of times we gotta make sure that we're having the right informed conversation when we're having those conversations.
Yeah, and culturally, right? Like, I know in my community, that barbershop talk it is happening all the time, and it's beautiful. It is fun. I've been lucky enough to be in the seat, and when it pops up, there's been times it pops up in my ears. I don't mess my neck up. I gotta jump in this conversation, right?
Yeah, I've got everything from mortgage advice to stockbroker advice for the guy who's giving a line up the side, and I'm like, God, I didn't know you worked there with Jones,
I love it. Let's talk about some cultural things that sometimes come up, right, for us. You know, whenever we are into our community, I think it's good to just unpack some of that. I know we had a conversation around some of these items that when we were having the conversation, actually I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that was the thing, right? So I'd love for you to unpack some of the cultural aspects that come up.
I think the biggest thing in cultural, in Hispanic culture, is that I have $30,000 or $20,000 in cash. Can I bring that to the down payment? Closing date in cash? No. The answer is no. So of course, you know, so cash is a big thing with the Hispanic community. Not being seasoned funds, right? Not being in the bank, which, you know, lenders require for any money that you're bringing to the closing table be seasoned funds, you know, in an account.
And you just break down what season.
Season meaning, you know, we're going to ask for 2 months worth of bank statements.
Right.
So those 2 months bank statements have to have the money, you know, showing that it's available. Exactly. Not big $20,000 cash deposit, you know, going in, because then it's going to be questioned.
You can't bring the bag.
Exactly. Cannot bring the cash. No, you cannot bring the mattress either, and then the visit. So that is one of the biggest things, and then of course, you know, in that perspective, so it's getting to that amount of money. So within Hispanic culture, it's a lottery. That's what it's called in English, a lottery, where a group of people.
You call it in Spanish.
Tandas. I hate you like too. It's kind of sad right there. Like, you participated, right? I did. So it's a group of people. Let's say, we have 5 individuals and we each say, okay, us 3 here.
Yeah.
You'll put 100, I'll put 100, you put 100. Next week, you get it. The following week, we do a little the same. The following week, I get it. And, so it's like, we take turns in putting that money together.
Yeah.
So, and of course, when you've got large groups participating, I mean, you're coming up with $1,000, $2,000 that everybody's contributing, $50 or $100. So, this is cash money that's coming in from different sources that cannot be sourced, cannot be traced. And that is, of course, one of the biggest things that I have seen within my community, my Hispanic community, that, these deposits going into the account, lump sum deposits that, well, it was my week to get the lottery, so, okay, cash. so yes, that's the biggest things. But of course, again, as long as these are seasoned funds, they can be used.
Yeah, and from my experience, we don't have that in our community, at least not to my knowledge. I would argue that I don't think we have that level of trust amongst our community. Like, being honest.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, if I said, hey, I asked everyone in here who was from the Black community, let's do this school or lottery, and we're gonna all do $100. How many people signed up? I mean, you know that. You know really well. Yeah, but like, outside of that, we're not gonna have that. The other thing culturally, I would say that exists for non-minorities and minorities. Non-minorities are a lot. They have a better chance of being able to go to a family member and get a gift. And by gift, I mean you can get funds gifted for down payment and closing costs. If you were getting married, for example, you could get a wedding gift, and that wedding fund could help you buy a house. Or you could have daddy just write you a check and take the closing, as long as it's within the acceptable limits of whatever loan program you're doing. We don't have as big of a pool or war chest to go to and ask for a gift. And that comes from some of the things we've hit on today. Generationally speaking, we don't have that leverage. We don't have the real estate that's been passed down to pull from. And that's why we're here, help them break that and change that narrative.
That's right. So, closing up now. We get to that point. And first, before we close, I want to thank both of you for leading the way and allowing us to partner to bring GrabThe Key here to Greensboro. Right. So I greatly appreciate it. Thank you both. Thank you both for the commitment that you have in your communities. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I promise you, you will continue to pour back in, and it will come right back to you, right? And the next generation, hopefully, will see that and want to do the same thing. So, as we finish up, we have our cameras in here, right? We have people watching, we have people in here in the audience. So you think about homeownership, right? You want to say one thing. If there's one person out there that you could potentially positively affect, and to hear your message and to say, I want to take those next steps, what would you say to them?
Mine would be to stop listening to people who are not professionals. You would not call up the eye doctor and ask him to give you a cardio, x-ray, or exam, or whatever. Doesn't make sense. We're not going to the eye doctor to get a heart exam. Stop asking your mechanic for mortgage advice. Stop asking your mechanic for real estate advice. You can ask them what they use, and then go to that professional and have that conversation. Because what gets lost in from one person to the next, you know how they play a game? You tell a story, and they tell another one, and tell another one. Something gets lost in translation, and what gets lost is that first person's story may not be your story. That person may not have had your credit score, or they may not have had your reserves, or they might not have the length of time on the job that you have. So while they were told no, you're now taking their no and their trauma and you're making it your own. And that's what we need to stop doing, because you're missing your blessing.
Also, there's a lot of social media, I don't want to say frauds, but there's a lot of people on social media saying incorrect information.
generation. Right?
Like the Bank of America down payment assistance is the greatest thing since sliced bread that the social media people made, and it went viral, and everyone in this room is probably saying it. But can anyone in here tell me any details about it? That's the point. It sounds good, it's splashy, it catches your attention, and then it gets the buzz talking. Have you seen what Bank of America is doing? They're giving funds to help the minority community. They're changing their narrative. But then when you start to dig a little deeper and you see and you actually understand how it's working and who it's working for, you probably feel a little bit different about it because it is geared to help. And if we help one, it's still helping someone. So I'm not saying it's not, but it's not out here for everyone. And that's what the post that went viral would have you believe, that it's coming to Greensboro next week.
Read the fine print. For me, it's take the initiative. Take the initiative. You know, if you've been thinking about getting pre-approved, if you've been thinking about, hey, I would love to be a homeowner, take the initiative. I think that's the most difficult step for everybody. It's the fear, and my colleagues, you know, we all touched on it. It's the fear of, you know, well, they're going to tell me just no white, you know. You never know, you know, just literally. You don't know where you stand today until you actually take the initiative. You pick up the phone, you call. So I was on a radio talk show last night, and for a Hispanic radio station, and I had somebody to call in, and her thing was, you know, Maria, I don't have a valid social security number. Oh, guess what? You know, did you know, right? So it's literally just take the initiative and let somebody open that door for you. Whether it be a credit score challenge, whether it be I don't have the money to put down for the down payment, or, you know, I just don't know what to do next. Let a professional help you and guide you, and you know, you're gonna make friends along the way. I think I just love this industry because I have made more friends than I have ever in my life. You know, it's every client becomes a friend. You know, it's not just a transaction. It's actually, you know, we're bringing families home.
Yeah.
So
I might come over to your house for the cookout too.
sure, gotta be assignments where we'll have. Absolutely. But definitely, if anybody's out there just wondering, just pick up the phone. If you're calling me first and you don't have a realtor to guide you, I'm gonna pair you up with somebody that's gonna love on you and make sure that you are going to be well taken care of, and we're gonna get you home.
I love it. We don't believe in no, right? We don't believe in no.
That's right.
Just maybe not right now.
Yes.
But it's possible. Homeownership is possible. It is possible, and we have to make sure that we continue to tell that message. And if I leave here today with one thing, one word, mindset. We talked about it over and over again today. So folks out there listening, if you hear this message later, I know that things live on social media forever, which I love, which can be good and bad, but mindset. If you take anything away from this, you watch this, you're in the audience today, mindset. I'm gonna see if y'all awake. This is our send off. I'm gonna see if y'all awake. It's possible. I'm not awake. It's possible. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
What you want to say about to the people in the net?
Oh yeah,
We this thing holistic. Yeah, we got somebody watching. All right, let's push the camera around. I can't remember how to do it. I know. All right, fam. So we just want to say thank you for tuning in today for the homeownership. Grab the key event. Have any questions? 336-340-4268.
336-456-1974.
I was like,
Yeah.